Let's break down some multiple choice questions. I'll pick a course, then we'll break down 4 possible examples of questions you may see in the exams. This is going to be super helpful, not just to get through and see answered questions, but also let's learn from them. This video, we're now into the Ontario Real Estate Salesperson Program Simulation Session 1, Exam Master MCQ video breakdowns with me. Just quickly, if you are looking for that additional support to pass these exams fast and efficient, look to the Exam Master mini courses in the description below from C1 all the way to Sims 2. More on that later in the video, but let's just dive right into the computer. Hey guys, here we are at question 1. If you've never seen me do this before, we'll read them and break them down. We're now into, if you didn't know by now, if you haven't followed along my channel, Sims 1, you're now into long-worded scenario-based questions, which is the ones we're going to cover. Some find them very hard and some actually don't mind them. More information, right? Try to have the mindset is, yes, these are long-worded, but you have more information to try to find the answers. And that's what I like to try to preach to a certain extent, right? Don't get overwhelmed. Watch these videos. Let's break it down. Okay, question 1, top left, deep breath. During an open house, a visitor tells you they are not working with any brokerage and wish to submit an offer directly. They confirm they want to remain self-represented. Okay, good beginning. Let's go with this. The visitor begins asking whether they should include a home inspection condition and what price would be competitive. Okay, you have already provided them with the mandatory RICO information guide and the RICO information and disclosure to self-represented party form. Which of the following actions is most appropriate? Okay, a bit of a scenario. Okay, we know our scenario now. Let's dive into it. Let's find this right answer. A, advise the self-represented party that including a home inspection condition would weaken their offer and suggest a price range based on recent comparable sales. Okay, self-represented party. And again, we're going to go over our notes. Although you can possibly suggest a range because you can say these are the comparables. Sometimes at an open house, you actually might even have comparables that you can show and say this house down the street sold for 1.1, this sold for 1.2. But you can't say a home inspection condition would weaken their offer. You just cannot say that to anyone. You can't, basically, that's providing advice, not to mention it's just against our code of ethics to say anything like that. So I'd move on from there. B, refuse to communicate with the self-represented party entirely since registrants are not allowed to deal with them in any capacity. Okay, of course, we know this is wrong. Once you see like big, harsh, polarizing things like refuse to communicate, and you will see stuff like this, let the red flag go off in your mind. And if you just don't know, leave it hovered over, but let that red flag go off on such polarizing answers like that. C, recommend the self-represented party work with your brokerage so you can properly advise them before proceeding with any offer. Okay, so this is interesting. Although you might suggest they consider representation, you cannot basically conditionally communicate on them becoming a client. Like that is such like you basically said, I can only do this. You can't say that, nor can you provide advisory services unless they enter into representation agreement. So this is a kind of a tricky one, but because again, like this, you can do comparables. You can suggest they work with your brokerage, but you can't say that line. You can't conditionally communicate with them and that, like that behavior. Okay, also tricky, but like if you get, and you're going to get questions like this and answers like this, like it's, you could almost perceive it one way or perceive it the other way. Just keep reading and try to find the answer that is possibly the most correct, because sometimes there is stuff that could be two could be correct and one's more, and that's the thing. Okay, move on to D. Explain the mechanics of how to complete the offer forms and present the offer as written while avoiding opinions or recommendations about price or conditions. Okay, because now we've already provided them with this, we can actually help them make an offer because we are helping our listing client, right? They want to remain self-represented party. We can actually handle the entire deal. But we have to do this. We have to avoid opinions or recommendations about price or conditions. Okay, let's bring up this bit of a note here. And when you see these notes, you can screenshot all of them if you like. Don't worry. They'll help you or just follow along. No, self-represented party, not your client, of course. You can assist mechanics, process, paperwork if it helps your client, right? Let's say, for instance, they want to make an offer in this one, that you help them and everything. The offer doesn't, like, they don't get it. And they're like, okay, can I see more properties? That is now a service, and they would have to become a client of the brokerage, right? It has to help a client. Think about that. You cannot advise price, strategy, conditions, opinions. Always avoid creating implied client relationship. Okay, guys, good question here, especially people struggling with self-represented parties. Of course, in the Exam Master, I really cover them, but this is a good one too. D, answer and move on to top left, deep breath. You are representing a buyer. The agreement of purchase and sale states that the $40,000 deposit is to be delivered upon upon acceptance. The offer is accepted at 8 p.m. on Monday. Your buyer asks when the deposit must be delivered and when the brokerage must deposit into their trust account. Okay, perfect. We're on to A. The deposit must be delivered within 24 hours of acceptance and deposited into the brokerage trust account within 5 business days. Okay, if you don't know, leave it hovered over, right? This might be, again, a bit more of you have to know type scenario. And if you don't, let's just try to break it down, right? But leave it hovered over anything you don't know. B, the deposit must be delivered immediately upon acceptance and deposited into the brokerage trust account within 24 hours or will be lawful except stated. Okay. Immediately is not the standard interpretation upon acceptance, right? And trust deposits are not required to be deposited within 24 hours. And this is stuff we'll learn, right? So interesting answer there again, and kind of a tough read. On to C, the deposit must be delivered within 5 business days to the buyer's brokerage and deposited into trust immediately upon receipt. Okay. This again, I don't even love how this is written, but it's tricky almost because they've just thrown in this buyer, haven't they? So you're reading it fast, especially late in exam. You're 3 hours into exam, you don't see this. Must be deposited into the buyer's brokerage. This is listing brokerage holds the deposit unless specifically stated in the agreement otherwise. So it's going into the listing brokerage's trust account. I'd move on from there. D, the deposit must be delivered on the next business day and deposited into the trust within 10 business days. Okay, so now if you didn't know, it is 5, it is 24 hours of acceptance, right? Again, here's another note, just so you have them all. Upon acceptance equals deliver within 24 hours unless the agreement states otherwise. Brokerage receives deposit. Listing brokerage, probably should have wrote that there, but basically listing brokerage holds the deposit. Just know that equals deposit into trust within 5 business days. You might also see as soon as possible, but no later than 5 business days. That could be possibly an answer for sure. Try to separate those 2 clocks, right? So deliver within 24 hours if it's upon acceptance and within 5 business days, right? Boom. Try to mix those up because they can confuse you there on possible answers as well. Answer is A. And move on. 3, top left, deep breath. A buyer is preparing an agreement of purchase and sale. The salesperson wants to ensure the important dates in the agreement are logically arranged so the transaction can proceed properly. Which of the following sequences places the key dates in the most appropriate order during a typical transaction? Okay, interesting. And again, this stuff can be confusing, especially late in an exam. Let's look at these though, and just do common sense. We'll just basically break these down, or just pause now and try to do it on your own type thing. But I'll go through them. Irrevocable date, offer date, title search date, / requisition date, closing date. Okay, so it's basically giving you 4. Title search date, they're mixing with the requisition date, which is almost identical type thing. And I'll bring up a note on that. B, offer date, irrevocable date. Okay, title search and closing. This is the perfect order. This is the answer. But just you'll get questions like this. They'll throw you off. Offer date, title search date, requisition date, irrevocable date, closing date, right? And again, it's just to challenge you. It's just to really challenge you, but just think proper order, right? Just think common sense, proper order. Visualize yourself as a salesperson making the order, or even as a buyer if you've worked with a salesperson at this point. In a typical real estate transaction, the sequence generally follows this order: offer date, when the offer is created and presented; irrevocable date, the deadline for acceptance of the offer; title search / requisition date, the buyer's lawyer reviews title and raises any issues with the seller's lawyer before the requisition date deadline. That is the deadline. And then, of course, the closing date. So you know the closing date's the end, the day ownership transfers, and the transaction is complete. Okay, that is the order, which is this order here. B, answer, and move on. Okay, 4, really good one here. Let's break it down. I even thought about making a whole video on roughly this, and I still might, on this kind of topic, because students really do seem to struggle with it. Not even students, brand new agents that join me at EXP, they still struggle with this concept for some reason, even though I I really have it in order explained it to them. Sometimes they just they keep asking me over and over because they just can't quite grasp it. Hoping this will help. 4, a buyer submits an offer with an irrevocable time of 10 p.m. that evening. At 9:40 p.m., the seller reviews the offer and decides to make a counter offer, changing the purchase price. Okay, the seller signs back the offer with a new price and sends it to the buyer at 9:50 p.m. Which
Which statement best describes how the irrevocable date and time should typically be handled in the situation? Okay, perfect. We're on to A. The seller must keep the irrevocable time the same in the counter offer, and the offer will now be irrevocable by the buyer. The seller doesn't have to keep the irrevocable time the same. They can change it. They can do anything they like on that aspect. Also, once the seller has countered the offer, it is now irrevocable by the seller, and we are going to talk about that. B, the seller must accept the original irrevocable time and cannot change it when making an offer. Basically, the same thing. A counter offer creates a new offer, so the seller can establish a new irrevocable deadline if they desire. In this particular case, they are keeping it very tight, aren't they? That's for sure. But they can do whatever they please when it comes to that. C, the seller should cross out irrevocable by the buyer and change it to irrevocable by the seller when making this counteroffer. Okay, let's see if we like that. I do like it, but let's read D anyways. The seller will need to change the irrevocable date and time as well as the purchase price when making this counteroffer. Okay, so although the time is getting very tight, like mentioned, the seller could change it, that's for sure. They could change it, and that's what happens most in the real life. But I just put this in here because it's tricky. There's no rule. There's no rule. They can just send it back like that. And sometimes during deals, you will see stuff like this. One party will apply pressure to the other party to try to make them make a quick decision. Okay, let's bring up this note here. And it's a big one, but this is why I was almost thinking about making a video, and I still might, right? Simple way to remember. Original offer, irrevocable by the buyer. Seller counters. Original offer dies. It now becomes a new offer that is now irrevocable by the seller until the new deadline. Try to put yourself in that scenario, right? Like try to put yourself in that scenario. Let's just make you the buyer right now because you guys aren't real estate agents yet. Your salesperson does all of their due diligence and you are prepared to make an offer. Okay. Once you sign off on every page of the agreement of purchase and sale, it is now irrevocable by you, of course. You can't take it back. You can't take it back. If the seller were to counter and sign off on all pages, initialing all changes, it is now irrevocable by them. They cannot take it back. If one party were to accept and sign the confirmation of acceptance and send it back to the other party, it would now be firm and binding. If the irrevocable date were to lapse, if it were to expire, the contract would now be null and void, and both parties are released from their obligations. Okay, again, screenshot this if needed. Some people really struggle with that irrevocable word, and then they start making mistakes on these exams, that's for sure. Okay, C answer there. Hope these 4 questions really helped. We'll see you right into the computer.
I really hope that helped, guys. And as mentioned, if you are looking for the additional support, look to the Exam Master mini courses in the description below. It's mini notes, mini quizzes, my exact fundamentals I used to pass all exams first try and in 4.5 months. And I also do video breakdowns of the 4 types of questions you may see in the exams. Those links in the description below are also value links for the time being for the YouTube family. I'll add that link to the exammaster.ca right here as well if needed. If you have any questions at all, DM, email, comment on this video. I get back to everyone. My name is Callum Moore, eXp Realty real estate broker here in Ontario. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.